is Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow with another news podcast for the first full week in June for expansions.com. And have I got news for you? I tried to cutting it down, but there is so much, we're just going to get started and go for it. And of course, in my opinion, one of the biggest news stories is the opening of the Gotthard tunnel in Switzerland that connects Zurich and Milano. Now, this tunnel was opened by Swiss President Johann Schneider-Ammann. He spoke from the North Portal in Rheinnacht, and the Transport Minister Doris Leuthard spoke from the South Portal at Poleggio. Anyway, apparently a tunnel is officially to link different languages, cultures, and peoples, and strengthen cohesion in Switzerland and Europe and boost the economy. Now, like I said, this tunnel, which I didn't even know was in the making, maybe you did. According to them, it took them 17 years. The tunnel itself is nothing compared to the show that they put on in order to open the tunnel. And that event actually attracted a lot of international interest, so of course it was guaranteed to be seen worldwide. Germany's Angela Merkel, France's François Hollande, and Italy's Matteo Renzi, and the new Austrian Chancellor Christian Kern were in attendance. Now, what we want to make note of is who was not in attendance. For example, Donald Tusk, the president of the European Council, as well as the heads of the Commission of Parliament, stayed away. So I thought that might tell us something about some infighting that might be going on amongst our global handlers. It said that Switzerland is in the midst of difficult negotiations with the EU over immigration issues, and so the same worldwide view is being expressed here today. I'm convinced that we can meet these great challenges, said the Swiss president. We need to shape the future together. Now, the whole world was watching this show. Journalists came from as far away as China, Kuwait, Turkey, and Japan for one day's attendance. A total press pool of around 300 people, which to me is just amazing because, as I said, they wanted to make sure that the whole world was watching this show. Now, they claim that the tunnel's main reason for existing is for rerouting freight through the tunnel. They said that Italy plans to have 3 major access routes to the tunnel ready by 2020, but in Germany the necessary network expansion could take up to 20 years. Now, Angela Merkel said that at the Gotthard event that, quote, "We know we are delayed in building our transport routes over the Rhine Valley that will eventually link Italy and Germany." Now, this is something she said which is interesting, and I'm going to be referring back to this throughout the entire news podcast. She says the Gotthard is the heart. Now the aorta is just missing. So we're going to hear a lot about the heart during this particular podcast that I'm making today. The German chancellor added the tunnel's dramatic opening had inspired her country to make it happen. Well, what messages were being given with this opening of the tunnel? Because I don't know, but apparently whatever message it is, she got the message. The Gotthard event kicked off at 8:30 a.m., which of course double new beginning, that's 8 plus 3 is an 11, with an official blessing of the tunnel. Now the tunnel was actually blessed by, a Catholic priest, a pastor, a rabbi, and an imam. And apparently there were no Protestant representatives taking part, and so there was a big squabble to begin with, and eventually these are the people that they chose to bless the tunnel, which to me is about the combination of world religions. And if you watched any of that, everywhere, the one word that was being used to describe the opening ceremony was bizarre. No matter where you went, it was bizarre. And that I have watched various parts of it here and there, and I agree it was bizarre, and it absolutely was an astral ritual of some kind, and I think it would take me days to write up what all happened. However, some of you, I'm sure, most of you by now have seen the winged baby, which was actually portrayed by a topless woman. It took a while for them to actually come out and say that. And even when I was looking at it with the way the arms were spread, I'm thinking, okay, is this a muscular man or is this a naked woman's torso? Well, they've now said it is a topless woman. And she was wearing a baby's head, a giant baby's head, which to me looked like a wasp nest. That's what it looked like, with eyes cut out. But they're saying it was a winged baby. Semi-naked dancers, and even a man with a bird's nest on his head. And, of course, it was all led by goats and ibexes, which of course are in the Swiss mountains, but as we all know, they are also central to devil worship, satanic worship, and they also portrayed having sex in front of everybody. So it was filled, in my opinion, and with skulls. They marched around with skulls on sticks. They had these twigs on their head. These were not live plants that they were dancing with. These were dead things. These were sticks and staffs and thorns and all kinds of things that are just absolutely bizarre. Now, they also, to me, the workers were portrayed as zombies, and they came marching in. The goat man was yelling on the stage, which to me sounded like he was having an orgasm while he was gyrating against a veiled person. And the dancers came in dressed, the men often as women and the women as men. And of course they had on whatever their underwear was that made them look like they were naked. And of course they were holding on to each other in very sexual ways. They were gyrating all over the place. They were grabbing and yelling and screaming. And to me this was just absolutely, I will agree with what the headlines say, totally bizarre. Now they're also claiming that the goat man was dancing around with straw bales, but I saw in other, or they were performers dressed as straw bales, but I saw in other write-ups that some people said these were supposed to represent the Yeti. So I don't know. And what else do I want to tell you about that? I don't know, there's just so much. Like I said, if you haven't looked at it, you have to look at it just simply because it is so totally bizarre. But I will be referring back to this also throughout our podcast because obviously it's significant, or they would not have displayed it for the entire world to see. The bottom line is the global handlers always do ritual. And now they're putting their ritual on for everyone to see. So they're not doing it behind closed doors. Now also you might have read, again, this word bizarre was used, about the bizarre 240 million pound egg in a cage where EU leaders will hold their summits from next year. So if you haven't had a chance to take a look at that, look at it because it reminded me as well what was on this baby's head, which also reminded me of a wasp nest. Anyway, this building has been nicknamed the egg in the cage because it's a bizarre structure, and the European Council is going to be having their meetings there. Again, they say in the heart of Brussels. Now, we heard Angela Merkel talk about the heart of referring to the Gotthard as the heart and the aorta being missing. This bird in is that what they call it? Egg in a cage, is in the heart of Brussels. So it says at the heart of the construction, in the heart of Brussels, nicknamed the egg in a cage because of its unusual structure, is also the brightly decorated room where EU leaders will face each other around a circular table at their summits from next year. Now they also have multicolored carpets and ceilings which are supposed to represent the EU's diversity, but the garish pattern that even fills the inside of the building's lifts seems more likely to give prime ministers a headache during late night meetings. And again, to me it looks like programming patterns. Around the edge of the summit room are 32 interpretation booths, one for each of the EU's 24 languages, with extra to spare for if some countries such as Turkey are welcome as member states. So anyway, this whole thing to me is very bizarre, and I'm going to be referring back to the heart as well during this. The bird's nest, the bizarre, all these words to me are buzzwords that are coming at you. Be sure you use your Brown merger or self-integration archetype. You must have heavy protection because obviously the ELF is being stepped up. And I know I personally continue to feel that as I move through this year. Remember, 2016 is a 9. It is a year of endings and completions. Also, you might have heard about Israeli police recommending that Benjamin Netanyahu's wife be indicted for financial irregularities. Apparently, the Israeli police claim that she is using, she has alleged misuse of state funds and inflated household spending, and apparently this has been an ongoing allegation against her. However, I thought this was interesting because the Prime Minister said that he denied the allegations in, quote, a Facebook post. Really? Facebook? It said, in the police statement, there was no recommendation to bring Mrs. Netanyahu to trial. In contrast to reports, Mrs. Netanyahu did not commit any crime. So again, using Facebook it's just bizarre. Bizarre. All right, now, moving along to Donald Trump, speaking of bizarre. And I actually have quite a bit to speak about him because what's happening with him, I think, is really inciting the American people to anger and to violence. And in my opinion, he's saying one thing and doing another in front of your eyes, so please keep your eyes open. Plus, he is also working, just like we talked about for this tunnel where they had several different religions coming together to bless the tunnel. Now he's talking about bringing in the Amish vote to support him. Apparently there are 70,000 Amish citizens and counting in the potential swing states of Ohio and Pennsylvania. Now, first of all, in my opinion, all the elections are already fixed. So what does it matter? But they're bringing this out into the open because they're trying to get these people to vote, even though, and they talk about this in the article, they said that an estimated 1,300, there's our number 13, voted in the Lancaster County, Pennsylvania region, or 13%, how odd, of the eligible Amish voting population. Now, Trump supporters with ties to Dr. Ben Carson and Newt Gingrich have founded Amish PAC, which aims to launch the most ambitious get-out-the-vote efforts among the devout religious sect to date. Remember, this campaign is tying together religion and politics like no other campaign before. It says they will most certainly face an uphill battle since the Amish don't watch television, they don't read social media, and that while voting is not necessarily prohibited by their strict religious beliefs, it's not exactly encouraged either. Now, in addition, Donald Craybill, who's an expert on the Amish people at Elizabethtown College, said, quote, "There's a lot of aspects about Trump that are anti-ethical to Amish values and Amish beliefs. This is a very different situation now than it was in 2004, unquote. Plus, Amish voters object to having their photo taken, and of course, in order to vote, you have to have photo ID. So, in my opinion, this is possible that it will tie into the Muslims, the women who want their head coverings, and some people want the head coverings off. So again, we're bringing in this religious aspect to the political scene again. It said, while lawmakers have provided a questionnaire for these unique voters where they can express their faith-based opposition to photo ID, some have argued that the process would be alienating and intrusive. So there we have, started with Donald Trump and religion. And then moving on, this is something else I found was very interesting because this is also continues this violence theme with Donald Trump. Sirius XM suspends Glenn Beck. Now, he has a syndicated show. Some of you may have read this article already. And on the syndicated show, a guest suggested that citizens would have to take means that might not be legal in order to get Donald Trump out of office. And because he did not stop this guest, Sirius XM decided to suspend him. Well, of course, as you know, what you focus on grows. So if he hadn't been suspended, this wouldn't be all over the news and you wouldn't be hearing about this, nor would I. Apparently, there is a fiction author named Brad Thor who said, "This is very serious. This could bring down incredible heat on me because I'm about to suggest something very bad." So right away, you're going to pay attention, right? It is hypothetical, and I'm going to ask as a thriller writer, if Congress won't remove him from office, what patriot, and there's another buzzword, patriot, will step up and do that if he oversteps his mandate as president? His constitutional granted authority, I should say, as president. If he oversteps that, how do we get him out of office? And I don't think there is a legal means available. I think it will be a terrible, terrible position the American people will be in to get Trump out of office because you won't be able to do it through Congress. Now listen to this one. That's unquote. Beck, who's the host, didn't immediately shoot down Thor's comments. When critics accused the rant of sounding like encouraging an assassination, Beck responded by discussing the topic at length on his show. He claimed the image in his head when Thor made the comments was not an assassination attempt. So again, here we go with the word shoot. You're going to find this is again all over the news as well in a list of very odd circumstances. For example, Trump said back in January, "I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I would not lose voters." That was at a campaign rally in in New York City, apparently. Then after the event, Trump declined to answer when asked by CNN to clarify his comments. In March, I reported on that Ted Cruz pledges to support Donald Trump unless Donald Trump actually shoots someone. Cruz said, I can give you one example where I would no longer support Donald Trump. If, for example, he were to go out on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, which is what Donald Trump had just said, I would not be willing to support Donald Trump. He said that at a press conference in March in Rockford, Illinois. Then in March, there was a video released by it was an amateur rap video, but of course, somehow or another, just managed to make it all over the internet. Teen thugs carrying shovels and clubs who threatened to shoot Donald Trump. And Donald Trump says in the headlines, U.S. should shoot Russian planes if diplomacy fails. That was on May 3rd. And then, of course, by now, you've probably heard of the shooting of Harambe the gorilla. And, of course, Donald Trump defends Cincinnati's zoo of shooting of Harambe the gorilla. So this shooting with Donald Trump continues to escalate, those two buzzwords together. So I went down and I looked up some of the violence that has been perpetuated. And people are putting together lists of violent things. I have April 28th, 2016, April 26th, April 23rd, April 11th, March 19th, twice. March 9th, March 8th, March 1st, February 29th. Now on December 14th, 2015 in Las Vegas, they were yelling Sig Heil, and then there was a black protester who was being physically removed by security staffers. Somebody screamed out, and this is going to be another buzzword for you, light the mother blank on fire. A lot of fire issues going on here too. So to me, again, inciting violence in a variety of ways. Trump later defended the crowd's treatment of the protesters, saying that maybe he should have been roughed up because it was absolutely disgusting what he was doing. Okay, then March 23rd in Miami, March 14th, Richmond, Virginia. And then when he's been asked about why there is so much violence at his campaigns, this was in March, he said, quote, people come to Trump campaign events with tremendous passion and love for their country. When they see what's going on in this country, they have anger that's unbelievable. They have anger. They love this country. There's some anger. There's also love for the country. It's a beautiful thing in many respects. They are mad. And when one interviewer asked him about some of his on-mic, in-public comments about protesters encouraging his supporters and security to punch, eject, and knock the crap out of protester, Trump tried again, and he said, let's see, get my notes here. Let's see, Trump voters have to defend themselves against the aggression of protesters. This despite the presence of security and Secret Service, they simply have no choice. Now, what people are saying is that there is no other candidate in either party that has ever gone so far as to suggest that their supporters resort to physical violence. No other candidates' events have been the subject of multiple reports, videos, still photos, and audio recordings of outright violence, accusations of Nazi-esque salutes, or shouts to light a black protester on fire. Now, then this goes on to say the problem with violence at Trump rallies start with Trump himself. He routinely pays lip service to the idea that he does not condone violence. Now, again, this is what I've been telling you about when you listen to the news. People say one thing and they do another, and they're so vehement saying one thing that you don't hear the rest of the story. So you have to really pay attention to what's actually being said and read the words and let them get into your head, because this is important information. Now, this is a commentator, and he says, even if Donald Trump does not, in his heart, here we go back to heart, in his heart, want to see people getting beaten up at rallies, the fact remains that he has consistently encouraged rally-goers to beat up protesters. Even more worrisomely, he has consistently justified his followers' desire to beat people up in terms of their passion for his campaign in America. Donald Trump literally encourages rally-goers to knock the crap out of protesters, which he said in March. And on February 1st in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, he said, quote, if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously, okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you. I will pay for the legal fees. I promise, I promise. Then on March 4th in Warren, Michigan, during an interruption, Trump said, get him out. Try not to hurt him. If you do, I'll defend you in court. Then he turned to the crowd and said, "Aren't Trump rallies the most fun? We're having a good time." And then he recalled an incident in New Hampshire rally where a protester started, quote, swinging and punching, and Trump said some people in the audience, quote, took him out. "It was really amazing to watch," unquote. On March 9th, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, he said, quote, "See, in the good old days, this didn't used to happen because they used to treat them very rough. We've become very weak," unquote. In March 4th, Trump promised to defend assaulters in court. After two protesters at a Kentucky rally were assaulted by members of a white supremacist group. In November, a Trump supporter punched and attempted to choke a protester. Protesters have been dragged out of Trump rallies. They've been hair pulled by Trump supporters. They've been sucker punched by Trump security guards. Then, apparently, they've even had violence against reporters. Michelle Fields was thrown to the ground by Trump's campaign manager. Violence by Trump supporters has gotten so routine that it doesn't even make the headlines. And he tells his supporters that their violence stems from their passion for his campaign. He says, "We have 25,000 to 30,000 people. They come with tremendous love and passion for the country." So when Trump was asked about this, he drew a connection between the beautiful passion that his supporters feel for America and the inescapable fact that his supporters keep beating people up at his rallies. So the message that he's sending to his followers is that he is effectively communicating that it is natural to beat people up and that it's beautiful because of this passion you have for your country. In August of 2015, two Boston men were arrested for beating a homeless Latino man with a metal pole. And one of them is said to have told police, quote, "Donald Trump was right. All these illegals need to be deported," unquote. When Trump was asked about it, he initially said he didn't know about the incident, but then he added, "I will say that people who are following me are very passionate." So the commentator who wrote this particular article says that when people are committing hate crimes in your name, you do not call them passionate. You do not say they want this country to be great again. You talk to them about this is not correct behavior. But it continues, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop. And Trump continues to say that people deserve to be roughed up. So anyway, then I went on to do a little bit more research. May 25th, protests turned violent outside Trump New Mexico event. May 28th, California violence as Trump brings immigration rhetoric to the border. So it's not stopping, it's continuing to grow. And to me, this is really moving things around in people because people are frustrated and they're taking it out on each other, which is what the global handlers want. They want you beating each other up. They want you divided. Divided, you are conquered. United, you stand. So obviously, they're dividing you, and people are falling for this. Now, you might also have recalled Marco Rubio, who once called Donald Trump a lunatic and a con artist. 40 years of sticking it to the little guy, has no ideas of substance. He blasted Trump for refusing to condemn white supremacists and the Ku Klux Klan. Now, Rubio is endorsing Trump for president. And the title says, Rubio kisses Trump's ring. Now, I read the article. There was nothing about that. Why did they put that in the title? Whose ring do we notice is always being kissed? That's the Pope's. So to me, the title, again, was significant. We want to keep our eyes out for things like this because there's got to be a hidden meaning, and eventually it will turn up, and we will find that out. Anyway, Rubio was asked if Trump should tone down his attacks on Hillary Clinton, which have recently included raising the conspiracy theory that she was involved in the death of Vince Foster. He says, "I don't think he should change if he's been successful," and he did publicly apologize to Trump for making a joke about his small hands.